Now turn up.
What up is Marcus with Dynasty Football Dads. We have a Jerry Jeudy signed jersey. All you have to do is be a subscriber for a chance to win. When we hit 1,000, we're going to be giving it away to one of you subscribers. That's all you have to do. Don't have to do anything else. As you know, I am not Mason. My name is Marcus. Starts with an M. But we are going to be doing, so I'm assuming, just based off of, I saw kind of the little clip notes of the rankings. I'm assuming this is super flex because I know right off the bat is Trevor Lawrence. So unless he's crazy, which I know he's not crazy, we are going to be doing what my rankings would be versus his rankings. Why not? And I don't know how far he goes. I just know this is a 21-minute video for him. I'm actually going to take some of your advice. We are going to listen to his video. Well, I'm going to react. We're going to listen to his video, then I'm going to react. Keep going back and forth. We're going to start with him. All right, Mason, take it off.
Surprised to see this, but we are going to start it off with Trevor Lawrence at the number 1 spot. Now, y'all know I said after the NFL draft, and I am still maybe of the opinion that if you really like Trey Lance, I'm fine with you taking Trey Lance at the number 1 spot overall. But the reason I'm going to be ranking Lawrence there is simply I have seen way too many people on Patreon send me their dynasty startups where they're sending me a link and going, look, Mason, I just got Trey Lance in the 5th round of this Superflex startup. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God. And then at the same time, every single one of those drafts, you see Trevor Lawrence going at the end of round 1, the beginning of round 2. So I can't sit here and act like just because we really like Trey Lance, that Trevor Lawrence is not the player you want to be taking at number 1 overall. I don't think he has the same type of rushing upside, but I love the offense that he's going to be in. Don't necessarily know about Urban Meyer yet, but DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, Marvin Jones, Travis Etienne. I mean, he's going to have so many different weapons around him. And obviously, Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback that we've been hearing about for the past 5 years now, and that he is going to be the next Peyton Manning, that he is going to be the next insert name here. But we know that they're very rarely quarterbacks.
Right, so I'll stop him there. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, this is with Superflex Leagues, is the easiest pick. Trevor Lawrence, 101. He's the safest. I mean, even look at Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was not somebody that was crazy mobile, but a top 5 QB over and over and over again. Andrew Luck, of course, retired early, but Trevor Lawrence is actually more mobile than Andrew Luck. He's more mobile than even like a Peyton Manning, of course. Peyton Manning is the stature, or the statue, I should say. But, I mean, we're talking Trevor Lawrence is a 4.6 40 guy, which, I mean, I'm a 4.6 40 guy, but I'm also not 6'6", 220 pounds and has a cannon of an arm. I can only throw it like 20 yards. Honestly, so that's why I'm a running back. But anyways, Trevor Lawrence is amazing when it comes to just ability to throw accuracy, deep balls, like everything. I mean, when you are trying to build a quarterback on like Madden, like this is what you're trying to build. And even sometimes I do some crazy stuff, and when I do my player, I sometimes do long hair too. So because you know what, sometimes you just gotta live a little bit. But anyways, Trevor Lawrence, not Trey Lance. No Trey Lance at 101. Just stop. Stop. There's no argument for it. I honestly don't think there's an argument for it. If Trey Lance, yeah, you could say maybe there's a slight chance he has a higher upside. Yes, potentially, but you were talking about probably a less longevity if you're talking about upside. So I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence, who I think could be a great quarterback for 15 years. And I don't think Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, I don't think any of those quarterbacks have that. All right, so that's kind of my little, I guess you can say 2 cents through there. So now we get to go through his 102.
Is way more insulated than any other player in this draft class. So now, y'all know, to no surprise, we are going to have Trey Lance at the 102. And honestly, I think more people are finally beginning to realize that Trey Lance should be in a tier ahead of Justin Fields. I sent out some tweets earlier talking about that. I think most people that originally thought that Justin Fields should be going over Trey Lance in Dynasty rookie drafts. Do y'all remember? I mean, I don't want to say one of the only people out there, but I was one of the very few people fighting the good battle in saying that Trey Lance was the better quarterback that you wanted over Justin Fields. Of course, we had to wait until we had the NFL draft because the NFL draft shows us so many different things in terms of the team investment as well as the situation that the players are going to be in. But once we had that data, it was clear that Trey Lance is at least the 102. This is a quarterback that has an elite rushing ceiling. This is a quarterback that gets selected at 3 overall. The team moves the 12th pick overall and 2 future first-round picks to go get Trey Lance. And at the same time, he has George Kittle. he has Brandon Ayuk, and he has Deebo Samuel. And now all of a sudden, I mean, we were having to fight people back a couple months ago when people were trying to tell me that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to start the entire year. And I was willing to bet any amount of money that you had Trey Lance starting by week 3 for this team, because you go through, you see that, I mean, 9 out of 10 of the past quarterbacks that were drafted within the top 3 picks, they're all starting by week 4. So it's a clear historical trend that we see that these rookies that have this type of team investment, they are starting very early on. And it doesn't even matter, to be completely honest, if Trey Lance comes out and he's a disappointment for the 49ers. If he comes out and he's a disappointment for the 49ers, who freaking cares? Because Trey Lance is going to be such an elite rusher in fantasy that I don't want to call him Lamar Jackson, but he's going to be very similar to someone like a Jalen Hurts, where he can be a bad
we'll
NFL
pause him there. Some really good points, and so Trey Lance is not my 102 here. This is Justin Fields territory, and I understand his arguments. Hey, we have upside. The downside is he doesn't become any great type of. He is not a great type of passer. There's a lot to look at the NDSU tape and go, not quite great. Like, he has a great arm. He has a lot of raw abilities. Do I think he would serve good having a full year under basically somebody's tutelage? Kind of like a Pat Mahomes. Yes, I think he needs to be. He'd be perfect if there was a game manager, and Alex Smith of like 3-4 years ago type. Again, he needs a guy to kind of help guide him through this. Trey Lance didn't play last year. He had an amazing year the previous year, had 0 interceptions. It was amazing. He had a really good rushing upside too, but I understand rushing. Justin Fields can run. And when you talk, Trey Lance is a better upside in rushing. I don't know about that. They are both mobile quarterbacks. And when I'm going to take the more polished passer, the one that is going to be probably in the next 2 years, a better quarterback. Also a better, I think, fantasy quarterback. Yes, when you talk about who has the better wide receiver, well, Allen Robinson is better than any wide receiver that San Francisco has. Now, yes, they have George Kittle, which is a huge destroyer of any tight end that the Chicago has. But when it comes down to it, it's like, okay, do you trust Kyle Shanahan's offense? Matt Nagy's offense? Yeah, the Kyle Shanahan's offense is a better offense. So we can go, do you trust draft capital, the changes and stuff like that? Ultimately, it is super close. Super, super close. But I think Justin Fields is a better polished passer. I think he has rushing upside. And he talks about him being more of a Jalen Hurts or even a Lamar Jackson type. Lamar Jackson is out of this world. Michael Vick is out of this world. I see him more of a Jalen Hurts type. And yes, Jalen Hurts can produce well for fantasy, but I think Justin Fields has that ability to be Jalen Hurts, but also can pass. And so what does that put him in? That puts him more of like a Kyler Murray type, but just a little bit taller and stuff for Justin Fields. They're so close. They're so close. My 103, spoiler, is going to be Trey Lance. I'll talk about Trey Lance after I figure out what his 103 is, which will be right now.
Consider putting him in the top tier is going to be a Najee Harris. And here with Najee Harris, I'll be the first one to admit there are red flags on his profile. The first thing is we have historically seen that when running backs come into the NFL at this old of an age, it has been a very large red flag. And the reason for that isn't necessarily us saying, oh, you have to be worried. You're not going to have him as long in the NFL. I mean, you're only going to get 5-6 years out of Najee Harris instead of getting 8-9 out of Javonte Williams. That's not the analysis at all. The analysis behind it is, hey, let's look at what's happened over the past 2 decades. Let's look at this group of running backs that came into the NFL, got drafted in the first round at 20 or 21 years old. And let's look at the other bucket of running backs that go through. They go into the NFL, get drafted in the first round. They get drafted at 22 or 23 years old. And the younger bucket, almost every single time, outproduces the guys that come in a little bit older. And the reason for this should be simple. When you come into the NFL and you're 20 years old, you should be able to continue to progress beyond what you came in with that current skill set. Where I will be the first one to admit, with a Najee Harris, you have to be a little bit worried that he's coming in, I don't want to say close to his peak, but he's coming in close to about as polished as he's going to get, given the fact that he just spent 5 years at Alabama. I would argue that Alabama, probably the best organization in terms of developing talent across the entire country. I mean, I want to say that if you're a player and you're wanting to improve your craft,
Those 30
would
touchdowns.
you rather be in an NFL organization or would you rather be at Alabama? Now, I know that is ludicrous to say, but I would imagine that Alabama's working a lot more in developing, and I think that Najee Harris is more so close to his finished product compared to what you're going to see with someone like a Javonte Williams. But beyond that, I mean, he's a clear running back one.
Well, positive at Najee there. Najee, so Trey Lance, the Justin Fields Trey Lance is so close. And so I'm taking, when it comes to nitpicking, I'm taking the little bit of talent versus opportunity that can forever change. And honestly, I mean, Debo's been hurt always. Everyone's always been hurt in San Francisco. So, I mean, there's always a chance that things can go crazy there in San Francisco. But Trey Lance is my 103 here. Najee Harris, of course, not in my 103. I am taking a quarterback easily over Najee Harris unless I desperately need a running back. It's just the quarterbacks are so much more valuable in Superflex. You are getting, let's just say Trey Lance here, you're getting maybe 6-7 years of Trey Lance, and I think if you're lucky, you're getting 4 solid years of Najee Harris. And Najee Harris is a player that I don't have in the elite realm. I don't think he can make it into the CMCs, the Cooks, the Kamara level, even the Zeke level. I see him being his projected max as a tier 2 running back. And so if you're talking about, let's say, Jonathan Taylor. If Jonathan Taylor was here, of course I'm taking Jonathan, like his rookie year, or even CEH, which CEH was just amazing opportunity. But those 2 running backs I thought were better and would have been better than Najee in his opportunity. And they would have been probably sneaking into that 102, 103 area, and they had really good arguments. But Najee Harris here, no. Najee Harris is actually going to be a little bit lower in my ranking. Spoiler, he's like 5th. So, all right, let's see what his 104 is. And then we'll go with my 104.
To take our L here. So y'all know, back in May, I came out and I said, at 4, we did not want Kyle Pitts. We wanted Travis Etienne. Well, now I'm sitting here going, we were wrong. Please forgive me. Just like how I'm asking everybody to go out there and admit that they were wrong in drafting Justin Fields over Trey Lance, I was wrong in drafting Travis Etienne over Kyle Pitts. Because once you see Atlanta officially get rid of Julio Jones, you go through and you see how pass happy this Atlanta Falcons offense should be. And you understand that Kyle Pitts, like we have always said, I've always been the first person to admit that Kyle Pitts is the best tight end prospect of all time. I mean, he is an elite player. And my thought process always with Kyle Pitts is that we have a large historical trend of running backs producing very early on in their NFL careers, and those guys seeing that elite jump in value after their rookie season happens every single time in Dynasty. Whereas at the tight end position, you know that's going to be one that takes a little bit longer for those players to actually go through and start producing. So I initially thought that we were going to be able to draft Travis Etienne now and then go through and trade him for Kyle Pitts next offseason. Yeah, I was wrong with that analysis. You should not be going in with that thought process because at this point, I think it's almost going to be impossible to acquire Kyle Pitts next year. I think you could, I don't want to say safely say that Kyle Pitts is going to be the tight end 1 overall in Dynasty rankings next year, but it's definitely possible. And I just have to come out here. I have to take my L. We should have had Travis Etienne behind Kyle Pitts.
All right, so he talks about Kyle Pitts being his number 4. And I guess I'm assuming this is, I didn't realize we were doing tight end premium. So I'm assuming tight end premium here changes some facts. But so I didn't have tight end premium, just popped up here for me. But Kyle Pitts, I mean, there's arguments for him, and that there's arguments that it may take him a year or 2 to develop, like every other tight end in history. I will say ageism problem for me is I am only 30 years old. I don't remember Tony Gonzalez's rookie year coming in. I don't remember what he projected to be like. I haven't watched his tape at college or how great he was compared to coming in, or even like Shannon Sharp and stuff. So Kyle Pitts is the best tight end that I have watched basically since probably the last 10 years, we'll say. And so that is a really good sign that Kyle Pitts could be easily valuable at 4. For me, even in a tight end premium league, I'm actually having a couple different I have a different running back ahead of him, not Travis Etienne, and I'm just kind of shocked that I don't know where I guess I can tell you so right now I'll just go 1 through 4 here real quick. It's the 4 quarterbacks. Najee Harris can be kind of in there, but I'll just give you my top 5. It's Trevor Lawrence. I'm William. So William, Trevor Lawrence. It is Justin Fields. It is Trey Lance. It is Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson still has that elite upside. And then it is a pretty big drop off when it comes to other quarterbacks, but not athletic or not ability wise, because then Najee Harris is right there at 105. And so 105, he's going to be talking about, I can already see, a different running back that I don't have in my top 5, of course, easily, and that I have a different running back even ahead of him. And you could already probably guess what that is. So we're going to talk a little bit
don't want us to go with, but we are going with Travis Etienne. Now with Travis Etienne, yes, I understand. We've said this a million times before. James Robinson is there. James Robinson is going to have a role this season. But at the same time, I'm not asking Travis Etienne to be a 3-down workhorse. You're not drafting Travis Etienne for him to be Najee Harris. Instead, you're drafting Travis Etienne for him to be Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Swift, any of those running backs that we have seen that have the ability to get targeted at a heavy rate coming out of their backfield. And when they get to the red zone, they also have the frame that they can also be getting the high value touches in terms of converting those carries to touchdowns. I believe that Travis Etienne actually does fit that mold. I think that you're going to have a James Robinson playing a very similar role that you actually had last year in Green Bay and the year prior, where Aaron Jones is only getting about 60% of the touches. But at the same time, Jamal Williams, who's getting the other 40%, isn't producing at all in fantasy. And the reason is, you have a Jamal Williams in Jacksonville. It's going to be a James Robinson. They're getting every carry between the 20-yard lines. And those players are not going to have the...
So his number 5 basically just... Mine's Najee Harris at this point. Travis Etienne, we'll talk about him. There's just a little bit different rankings, and I'm not trying to bash Mason by any chance here. I think his rankings are justified. I think that he has his kind of way of drafting, and there's definitely some players. Like, I'm shocked that he has Justin Fields at 6, which is the next player here. We're going to talk about Travis Etienne. We'll talk about Kyle Pitts here as we go. So we'll play number 6 here, and then I'll go through my 6 who hasn't even been talked about yet.
For waiting this long to put him in here, Justin Fields. And I will be the first person to admit, guys, yes,
we're hating.
Justin Fields has a ridiculous ceiling. You look at his rushing capability, and you can't necessarily deny the fact that combined with his arm talent, his arm strength more in particular, kind of gives him a spot where you wouldn't be surprised if Justin Fields one day became the quarterback 1 in this draft class. Now, I'm saying if we're looking at things through a range of outcomes lens, yes, that's possible. Is that likely?
Then
hell no. That's not likely whatsoever. And the reason why I have Justin Fields this much lower than a Trey Lance is where we made the reference to when we ranked Trey Lance, that if you look historically, that quarterbacks that get drafted in the top 3, they have at the minimum a 4-year leash. At the very minimum, it doesn't matter if they're Blake Bortles, Mitchell Trubisky level bad, they're going to be starting in the NFL that long. Whereas on the case where a player goes at 10 overall like Justin Fields, the leash here is going to be a lot shorter based on what we have seen historically. Now, I think that Justin Fields, yes, he's going to at least get the chance to go through and start 2 years, but it's a completely different situation where if you actually have Fields be as bad as what you had with a Bortles Trubisky, I'm not saying that he is. I'm just saying that it's possible. We know that the quarterback position is the hardest position to evaluate coming into the NFL. Teams get it wrong over and over and over again. The team investment isn't there to give Justin Fields the same type of floor that you actually have from a Trey Lance.
His biggest argument at Justin Fields is an argument basically that he's going to have a short release. It doesn't have to do with anything about his talent-wise, which that's kind of frustrating. It's like if he has that ability, that talent, that upside, and you watch the tape, and even analytically, it seems like he should be a good player. Hence why I even was like, yeah, my Vikings, they can take him at what was it, I think 15 or whatever it was going to be. Then he should be at 102. If not at 102, he should be at 103. Like, come on. We should. It's just me arguing against the screen here. That's what I believe. But my 6 is Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams, why I have him over Travis Etienne, my little argument here is Javonte Williams is a 3-down back. He is somebody like Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb, if you watch him and Javonte Williams, they're powerful backs. They have good vision. They have good cuts. I would rather have the more volume versus Travis Etienne, who I think is going to be a really good running back. In fact, very shortly we'll talk about Travis Etienne and where I have him ranked. But I think that Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne. In fact, I have 2 early picks. I traded some good capital in 2022 and some players, and I got another pick into a different dynasty up. And I'm actually probably going to do Javonte in one league and Travis Etienne in the other league, because I don't like it when it's that close. I don't like putting all my money into one player. I've done that before and it's worked out, but it's not something I like to do often. Especially that high. Like, let's just say Javonte Williams or Travis Etienne get hurt. Or like a Rashad Penny like. You can like a player, and that injury will set them down, and all of a sudden, it's a big problem. So, again, we're going to go to 7 here for him. Let's see what it is.
So now let's go over to 7. Let's go to another quarterback in Zach Wilson. And Wilson, it's almost the exact opposite of what you have with Fields. I think with the Zach Wilson, he goes at 2 overall. You know that he's going to have the long leash. You know that at the very minimum, you're getting 4 years of a starting quarterback in a super flex format. Whereas the difference between a Wilson and a Fields is I don't think really anybody's out here making the argument that Zach Wilson could see the same type of ceiling that you have from a Justin Fields from a dynasty perspective. And one of the main reasons behind that is just based on the fact that we know that Justin Fields is going to have the rushing, where Zach Wilson, I mean, he's not necessarily going to be someone that's just scrambling all over the place. I'd be very happy if you actually have a Zach Wilson just coming away with, I mean, if you get 20 rushing yards a game from Zach Wilson, I think you're very happy with that. And yeah, that is kind of the baseline for you to try to get a quarterback up into that quarterback 1 range. But I don't necessarily think that he has access
I'll
to
pause
the elite.
there. What I believe on Zach Wilson is kind of a Ryan Tannehill type. I mean, you're not going to get amazing rushing yards, but you could get a game with 40 yards. You could get a game with 10. You could get some rushing touchdowns, some short rushing touchdowns. Or even like Fitzmagic. If you watch Fitzmagic, he can actually run. He actually has some decent rushing yardage games, especially the last couple of years. It's actually kind of shocking, because I was like, I was in a redraft league a couple of years ago. I think it was like 2 years ago. I was like, man, Fitzpatrick just keeps getting like 40 yards rushing. You know, it's kind of like cool. I don't know. Whatever. Sidebar. My number was 7. Yeah, my number 7 is Travis Etienne. I think Travis Etienne, like he said, you are hoping for Kamara. I don't know. Kamara. I've said both 8 million times in my life. So Alvin Kamara. You're hoping for a little bit better than Swift, because Swift, now you have Jamal Williams there. I mean, you're hoping for a running back that gets kind of that like performs way efficiently on those snaps. And Travis Etienne has the ability there. But when we're just tie-breaking Javonte Williams and we're tie-breaking him and we're Travis Etienne, I'm taking Javonte Williams over Travis Etienne. And we haven't talked about Kyle Pitts yet, because I like these 3 running backs. I think they're all very, very safe. One of the biggest arguments, especially in tight end premium, is you could have Kyle Pitts above Javonte or above Travis Etienne. I personally don't. And it's partly because I think it is going to be a slower burn for Kyle Pitts, but they did get rid of Julio. It's one of those, you haven't seen it before. Like, it's like, you know, like you've heard of unicorns, but do they exist? Do you believe in Sasquatch? Does he exist? You can hear all the tales and stuff like that. Kyle Pitts, we see it on tape, but can that translate to the NFL? Does he make that jump and to do things that we've never seen before at the tight end position? It's possible, but I've never seen it before. And I don't think anybody else has ever seen it before. So until that happens, we have to be a little cautious. I'm a little bit more of a safe. I'm a safe drafter. I like safety. Give me safety. If you like risk, Kyle Pitts. If you like risk, it could be a top like 4 pick, or top even like into like in the top 3. Like maybe Mason's a little bit more risky than I am, which is perfectly fine. That's why everyone gets drafted a little bit different time. You like risk? Well, then take these players that may, like a Henry Ruggs. You're like, ooh, I like risk. Like that would be a player to take in the 2021, like a startup or something like that, because you like risk. And that's not even super risky. I'm trying to think of a better example of that. J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift. Maybe they're not even that risky. I'm trying to think of somebody that is risky that we haven't seen before. I'm not sure yet. There's some risky people. Probably Kenny Galladay, because his hamstring hurt. Rashad Bateman because he got hurt. I don't know. There's risk. There's risk out there. I haven't figured it out. I haven't thought of it off the top of my head. But let's just get up to number 8.
And all the way down here at 8,
for him,
I know a lot of people
Chase.
are going to hate this one as well, but we are going to have Jamar Chase. Now with Jamar Chase, really, he has not fallen at all. This is where we have always been on a Jamar Chase. And I know there have been reports out of camp lately saying that Jamar Chase doesn't necessarily look as impressive as they were expecting. Yeah, Jamar Chase hasn't played football since 2019. What were you expecting? Jamar Chase, yes, an elite level receiver prospect. Now, we have always said that given the fact that receivers are a little diluted, we don't necessarily think that it's a good idea to be going out there and drafting someone like a Jamar Chase over a Kyle Pitts. We've always been on the train, Kyle Pitts over Jamar Chase. Now, with Chase, what we are finding is we're finding that I think this may actually be a decent buy low opportunity for him. Now, of course, I'm not going to be willing to take him any earlier than this, but it's mainly going to be dependent on what you have with the other receivers on your roster and where you'd be.
For me, at this point, we're talking, and especially tight end, this is where I cannot pass up on Kyle Pitts anymore. We talked a little bit about Kyle Pitts. I mean, this is where my safety measure is. If I see another Kyle Pitts in 5 years, and Kyle Pitts, let's just say, or 10 years from now, and Kyle Pitts, I see that he has performed amazingly, or if we have some veteran, when I say veteran, I mean dynasty people like remember, because 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, I need like 15 years ago. 15 years ago, when was Tony Gonzalez's rookie year? Like, it was maybe 20 years ago, whatever that was. I was like 10. I was young. So when you have somebody that is maybe some of our veteran, do you remember Tony Gonzalez in college? Was he like Kyle Pitts? Like, give me some insight. Was Shannon Sharp, was he like Kyle Pitts? Because right now I have never seen that. And a lot of people around my age have never seen that. And so it scares us. It does scare us because we were like, yeah, we see the best tight end rookie years of the last like 20 years and we don't like, or last like 15 years and we don't like them because it ends up being basically just Gronk and that was all tight end touchdowns. And touchdowns are very volatile. So we need you dynasty dads, some older dads here, maybe some dynasty grandpas here, to lead us into some mental clarity here, so to help us out. Let us know. Like, do you believe that that Kyle Pitts, or have you seen like a Kyle Pitts before? Because that would really help us out. Right now, Kyle Pitts is 8. Until some of you older folks maybe change my mind, but if you haven't seen it before, then you need to get some basically clarification of what you believe in. So, or not clarification. Whatever. I'm thinking of whatever. We're getting towards the end of the video. It's almost 30 minutes. I think this is the longest video I've ever done. Number 9. Here we go. I would like to hear what he talks about Javonte Williams, my boy.
Javonte, someone who's been falling a lot in high-stakes redraft formats, but for Dynasty, nothing has changed. This is a running back that we know is going to be the 3-down guy in Denver after Melvin Gordon leaves. I would honestly possibly consider taking a Javonte Williams over a Jamar Chase, but the problem is I can never advise someone doing that based on the fact that the dynasty market value is going to pretty much just laugh at you. You're going to be losing out on so much potential trade value as soon as you make that selection. But we know that there's nothing more valuable in dynasty than getting a 3-down rookie running back on that rookie contract.
Okay, so I love Mason, but the huge argument, you're not drafting a player to go trade him in 3 days or 2 weeks or a month. You are drafting a player to hopefully in the middle of the season, end of the season, that is when you're getting your marks. You're not drafting a Javonte Williams to sell him in 3 weeks to get Jamar Chase and be like, oh wait, Jamar Chase, you can't get him because Jamar Chase's ADP is ahead of him. Like that's a very poor argument of why Javonte Williams is 9. That's why Javonte Williams, you're hoping after Melvin Gordon basically it becomes the backup. You look at Javonte Williams, that's when you're like, okay, now he's the starter, or now he starts producing really good games, and then you sell him. I would never recommend drafting a player and then selling him a month later, a week later, 2 weeks later. In that case, if you're going to do that, trade the pick away. Just trade the pick away. You're going to get better value trading the pick away 99% of the time, unless you absolutely can't, and that's 1% of the time. Number 9 here is Jamar Chase for me. And he, like you said, with wide receivers, they're diluted. There's a lot of them. He hasn't played in a year. There's some big kind of flags. He's also not great at separation. He uses physicality to separate, and those are issues at the next level that we have kind of like yellow flags. Yellow flags being like, a little bit of a warning. Like, hey, we don't really like that. He's great yards after contact, yards after catch. But Jamar Chase, is he going to be CeeDee Lamb? I mean, if I could pick, I'm picking CeeDee Lamb over him. Justin Jefferson, I'm picking Justin Jefferson over him. The number one argument I always hear is Justin Jefferson was the beta to Jamar Chase's alpha. You could say yes into the LSU offense, but why does that necessarily translate to the NFL level? There's been plenty of times where you've seen Arizona State University wide receivers, or you've seen other wide receivers where they perform better at the collegiate level, and then they just seem to not have that translation to the NFL level. And I'm not saying that Jamar Chase is going to be a worse wide receiver than Justin Jefferson, but I think that the chances and the likelihood that the translation to the NFL level, where it maybe is a different type of game slightly, and where you need separation, you need really good route running, which I think are some things that he slightly lacks versus Justin Jefferson, which he excels at, like that's going to be an issue. And so that doesn't mean Jamar Chase is going to be automatically a better wide receiver than Justin Jefferson, which I think people are already saying that. If you're planning on that, then that's why you're drafting him early, and that's why you're probably going to be slightly disappointed in the beginning of the year when the Bengals start throwing it to Tyler Boyd all the time and T. Higgins, and you're going to be like, what the heck is going on? All right. So, again, it's kind of my rants, but Mason, this is all, this is why, I would love to be on Mason's show here at some point and just kind of put my arguments at him, or not at him, but I think he does a really good job at times with some of his arguments, and then some of them don't make sense as much, and people probably think the same thing about me. That is fantasy football. And Dynasty football, fantasy football is forever changing, and Dynasty football is so changing. You could make a really bad trade. I've made some amazing trades on paper that have gone down the crapper. Like injuries, situations change. Same for the opposite. I've made some trades that I go, wow, why did I make that trade? And then 3 months later, I'm like, man, if I didn't make that trade, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. You make trades, and sometimes I traded for Austin Eckler, and just a little 1 minute sidebar. We're at 32 minutes. I traded for Austin Eckler. I realized I overpaid for Austin Eckler, even though that he was the backup to Melvin Gordon. I was like, crap. Well, then Austin Eckler became the starter. I was like, yeah, cool. Well, Austin Eckler is still the starter. He is still my running back, and I'm just loving it. I'm like, hey, you make mistakes, and sometimes you get root for it. All right, so again, this is Marcos Dynasty Football Dads. If you made it this long, make sure you hashtag Skull. And thank you for watching the 33 minutes of this. I'll try to edit this out nice, but this is my Jerry Jeudy signed jersey. We're going to hit 1,000 here soon. Woo! All right, peace out. See you tomorrow.